The child in me, who I think will always be alive, and I love to play, and that's what acting is to me. I love to play, you know. So when I participated in Friends, you know, and it's a very a formularized thing, two-dimensional, you know. But the important thing to me was not to impose myself, not to be saying, "Oh, I know, you know, all this stuff," just to play my part. You learn my words, hit my marks, and just be a good, down to earth person. That's really good. That's the best. And then I had seen a paperweight, a transparent paperweight with an idiom or an axiom or a quotation in it, which is the greatest artist in the world is an uninhibited child at play. And I subscribed to that. And I mentioned that to a wonderful friend, Herb Gardner, who wrote *1,000 Clowns*. He was a wonderful writer. And he and his wife said, "And Picasso." And I said, well, first of all, I didn't know you were a materialist. With all due respect, I don't care who anybody is, you know, and I like hummingbirds. And and I love Picasso too, but you keep Picasso and we'll keep the child, because as far as I am concerned, without the spirit of the child, you know, nothing has very much meaning to me. Just make them. You know, Bergman said to me, you know, when you direct, Ingmar Bergman said this to me, when you direct, and you will direct, he said, you mustn't act. And no matter who's doing it and who's done it, you'll understand what I mean. And then when I told that to a great, great elder colleague who's still with us, Norman Lloyd, Norman is 97 now, and he and Peggy, who's 98, at the end of June, they celebrated the 73rd wedding anniversary. And he had worked with Hitchcock, worked with Wells, was partnered with Charlie Chaplin, plays the choreographer in Limelight. And then when he said to me, when I worked with Jean Renoir, because I mean, mentioning, he said, and my jaw hit the floor, we were at a grocery. He said, Renoir said to me, if you're directing a film and you act and there's a role in it for you, play the part. And I said, I appreciate that, but it's taken all this time to make a balance between Ingmar and all the rest of us. But in the purest sense, I think that Ingmar is right. You know, you just make your pictures. Make your pictures. Well, I said Vanessa Redgrave to me is one of the finest actors, actresses, artists that I've ever seen. And I said to Vanessa, I basically don't like directors. And she said, "Oh, I love my directors." And I said, "Well, I'm glad you're my friend because I have a lot to learn, you know." And then realizing that the director, not every director is an auteur. Not every director is a one of a kind or a genius, but you have to work for the director. The director is responsible. It's like a quarterback. It's like a coach. With Bergman, there was no improvising. You know, he wrote everything. I recently did a segment, just was on this past week, of a CSI, and the director is a really talented, very nice, sensitive director named Michael Nankin. And he'd really directed me a lot. I mean, he directed me, do it this way, do it that way. You know, and I knew who I was playing and what I was doing. And then we got to a point where then it's like being out at sea, and you go with the wind, you navigate. Being dependable is really important also. You know, being there, and like I said about ego and vanity, there's no room for it. There's no time for it. There really is no time for it. I so believe in education. I always had a wish and a dream for there to be a studio where we all work together, like a government, another form of government, whereas everybody knows what everybody else is doing, and we have to be interchangeable, and that we have to be able to support ourselves by making a product that's going to make money for the studio, so that the core of the studio, the trunk of the studio, is an educational place for all of us to learn, you know, to be a director, to be in anything, to be what you are. You know, and I feel that way about government, that each one is responsible for every other one. Well, it's nice if they have money, you know. I mean, they can pay you, you know. I mean, well, that's great, you know. Then you talk about character. I used to think that talent was the most important thing, and it's not. I believe that that character is the most important thing. You know, I mean, I want to work with people who are decent. Yeah. How did I find the root of my insecurity? I never gave up. And so now I did a film actually it was at Pinewood Studios, Great Lunches, in London. And it was a remake of an Alfred Hitchcock masterpiece called The Lady Vanishes. And with Angela Lansbury and Sybil Shepherd and Herbert Lehman, a great cast of British character stars. And the cinematographer was a man named Douglas Slocum. And Dougie Slocum had done Indiana Jones, and he had done Julia with Fred Zinnemann, who, even thinking about him takes my breath away. Fred's a man for all seasons and High Noon. And he said, and Dougie talked like that, so I used to call him Dougie very Slocum. And so he said, how did you escape? And I said, well, I appreciate your sort of validating something that you may see in my work or in myself. But first of all, there is no escape. There is no escape. But for me, my greatest fear was the darkness. And that if people would talk to me and talk to me in less than positive or divine, I would withdraw into deeper darkness, and until I learned to see through the darkness into the light. You know, so that's how don't give up. And then I've seen what's that picture? This current picture with. DiCaprio, Inception, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
So I've seen it twice, and the second time I saw it with my 11-year-old grandson, and I most likely will see it again. But somebody who was very close to me said, "Why did you understand Inception?" And I thought, why did I understand Inception? The question would be, how could I understand Inception? And the answer is that I've been working consciously, subconsciously, and unconsciously for a very long time. You know? So some of it is genetic. You know, I mean, I'm not in denial. At all. In early December of 1988, I came up from Fort Lauderdale, where on the Friday was the funeral of my father, and then on the next Monday I did a later show with a journalist named Bob Costas, and we talked, and this was NBC, and they taped it, and he said to me, "Did you ever have a drug problem?" And I said, "No, I didn't ever have a drug problem. I had a problem with reality. But now that I accept it, it's my friend whether I like it or not." You know, I mean, so stamina. You know, I'm aware. I mean, there's loads of improvements. I mean, I go to the gym. You know, I don't dissipate, but you know, I mean, and I'd like to work for 20 or more years, but the picture.